In this video, I'd like to explain to you the 5 penny drop moments that help guide us to developing this framework that we talk about. Before we begin, let's give a little context to where the internet is going and how WebGrowth has repositioned itself over the last year or two in the marketplace. So the various channels have moved a lot closer together, all of which can contribute to growth. So that's SEO, email, paid advertising within search, social, etc. The one constant is content. It remains the engine for this growth. When we looked at our own building efficiencies in our internal processes, we discovered that content can be repackaged a number of ways for each channel. So most content can be repurposed in some shape or form. This is important to note, and we'll come back to it in a topic later in the course. The second point is that WebGrowth moved away from a consulting company, and the bare bones of our model is now an e-commerce business. Being e-commerce, it has its own challenges, so we had to relook at our value proposition and how we communicate this online. So generally speaking, e-commerce, you have one opportunity to make that sale. So the messaging has to be spot on. And yes, how does this come through? In content. So you can see the common thread here. And again, we'll move on to this a little bit later. So we discovered, some by chance, these 5 penny drop moments that we talk about. So over the last 3 years and a bit, these moments have helped guide our thinking and develop a structured process to every project. Penny drop number 1, discovering the viral formula, clickability times shareability times distribution. One of the co-founders of a US-based company called Upworthy spoke about this formula at a real estate conference in San Diego. And when listening to it, I was immediately blown away by its simplicity and how it directly affects our thinking in everything we do within digital. The premise of this formula is that it challenges you to measure the 3 factors that influence the likelihood of a piece of content to go viral. I'll take a quick run through the formula in more detail in the next lesson. Our second penny drop moment was a short little comment made on the WebGrowth blog on an individual blog post, which was published about 4 or 5 years ago, prior to the date of that comment. And to be honest, I actually forgot about the article even existed. It was getting a handful of visits, like 2 or 3 visits a month, and was never on our radar in terms of pages generating traffic. So the irony of this moment was that the comment actually came through a competitor. The person sneakily inserted their company URL into the comment, hoping to get a link back to their website. And if you know anything about links, you'll know that it was a SEO strategy, and they adopted this to help build their own link profile for themselves. But unfortunately, this type of link strategy has a very low value. Anyways, what we learned from the moment was that the URL structure matters. Page authority was a big deal. Strategic internal linking within the website can offer returns. And finally, repurposing content has a number of benefits, all of which will be discussed later on in the course. Penny drop moment number 3 is donut marketing. The basic premise of this is that you need to be testing, and testing again. The testing model needs a framework though. The first thing we need to do is research. This comes in the form of developing content ideas and doing competitor research, from which we move on to optimization and publishing of the content. Once the content is live on the web, we then promote it. The saying of build it and they will come, it doesn't exist anymore. Without promotion, you won't get the right eyeballs on your content. And obviously the disclaimer here is that getting the right eyeballs doesn't just happen by switching on an ad. You still need to be strategic in terms of the messaging and how that relates to the audience you're trying to connect with. So throughout promotion and post-promotion, we collect data to start making informed decisions. We then identify opportunities, repurpose where we can, and then promote again, sometimes to different audiences each time. Depending on your resources, the turnaround time for this could be anything from 1 month to 6 months. All right, okay, let's move on to penny drop moment number 4, traction. Last year, one of the books I read was a book called Traction: How Any Startup Can Achieve Explosive Customer Growth. It is brilliant, definitely worth a read. It challenged us to simplify our approach, focus only on one channel at a time until we could optimize that and then obviously move on to the next channel. The book talks about 19 traction points which touch on both digital and traditional media. With web growth being strictly digital, we took the offline media with a pinch of salt and applied our methodology to only the digital channels that we talk about. So these are in no specific order. We've got things like organic search, organic social, paid social, email, and referral traffic. The book is pitched at startups, but there is no reason why any small brick and mortar business all the way through to a large corporate should be using this traction model. I'd say every business struggles with a level of focus. So everybody should be listening in when we talk about traction. And then finally, penny drop moment number 5. I watched an interview on TV of Michelle Obama, which had obviously no relation, by the way, to work. She urged the youth to broadcast this message of live out loud. So naturally I took to heart and wondered, how could I live out loud within a web growth context? I realized that perhaps web growth could apply the thinking as well. So with an abundance of knowledge, but not really talking about it, we decided to just communicate our successes and our knowledge. So here I am today.